Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this video, we are going to discuss the temple architecture of India. Temple architecture, that means the way to design a structure that is called temple. Temple is basically a home for the god where the Pratima is established by various rituals, which is prescribed in the various ancient texts. So we will discuss what is the temple architecture of uh, the evolution of temple architecture in India. So what you are seeing in the picture, it is the Bairat temple, which is present in the India, Rajasthan, and you can see that it is just a foundation of what temple was. And in this picture, we can see that these are the concentric circles which was laid as a foundation of a wooden temple. It was basically a Buddhist temple, and its structure is carved like a Buddhist vihar. And later on, this structure inspired the uh, f- further generation temples and also various rock cut temples, rock cut architectures in India. It was built around 3rd century BC during the rule of Ashoka, the emperor, and it inspired the future generation temples and also the rock cut architecture. So this is how the temple evolved during the second millennium BC, second century BCE, and this is somewhat near the Sachi, and its name is Saint Sachi Temple number 18. It is built during the second century BCE, and it is the earliest structural apsidal temple. Basically, it had 12 pillars, and in that pillar, it is uh, like a garbhagriha, where in the column of these pillars there was a statue of the deity for which this temple is dedicated. It is one of the earliest temple which is still exist, and somewhat in the shape of what it was. It had 12 pillars, but now it only 9 pillars are left. So this is how the temples evolved, and we can see that this is the first temple where we can see the proper garbhagriha, although it has a flat roof garbhagriha. And also we can see that there is a structure which where few people can stand and do their puja or what they want in front of the deity which is placed in the garbhagriha. This is a Gupta era temple, and basically it was a Buddhist temple. Here we can see that, like the Ashokan pillar, we can see the capital abacus, and above all, these are the opposite two lines built opposite to each other, and these pillars are holding the roof. So it was one of the earliest structural temple which is still present, and this is how the temple architecture evolved by the time. And we can see that this temple is built on a certain height, and later its height is translated as a adhishthan in the bigger Nagra style architecture. This temple was built by the Chalukya of Badami, and it was laid down in the around 5th century CE. In the A-hole, this is known as the Lad Khan temple, where we can see that there is a structure. It is the first temple when the proper structural form of shikhar can be seen. And here we can see is not the garbhagriha but whole temple architecture, temple structure get bigger, where not few people but many people can stand in front of the deities. but there is a problem. Problem is that this temple is almost dark inside because there is not much source of light to lighter. So this is why in the earlier time we have seen in the films that some mashals are used, lamps, fire lamps or mashal are used to light the inner side of these kind of structures. So this is the Ladkhan temple, and now we will discuss the Durga temple. It is just a few years later it was built when the Lord Khan temple built. It is the epicidal temple where we can see various pillars and uh, there is a structure of somewhat like the Shikhara in the Nagra temple architecture. Here the pillars are holding the roof, and we can also see that there is a structure like a Pradakshina path around the Garbhagriha, and this temple was built on a certain height. So now we will discuss how the temple architecture evolved by the time. And in the later centuries, like from the 3rd century AD to 7th century AD, proper architectural styles was developed. In the northern side of the country, it was the Nagra style which was developed, and in the southern side, it was the Dravida style architecture. Here we can see the uh, basic architecture of the Nagar style temple. It is a curvilinear shape. This is the Garbhagriha, and the whole structure. This is known as the Shikharam, and on the Shikhar, this is a Amlak. This is the Kalash. We will discuss this in details in the Nagra style architecture, and this is the basic difference. We will understand it. So first of all, we will understand the Nagra style architecture. In the Nagra style architecture, where this is the Lakshmana temple dedicated to Lord Vishnu, and it was built by the Chandela king in the Khajuraho. So also this is known as. So this is a proper Nagar style architecture, and we will understand like the height. This height is known as the Adhishthan on which the temple architect built upon. And if there is a place where someone can stand and make his whole round around the temple, then this place is known as the Jagati. Jagati is the place so that anyone can do a pradakshina from outside of the temple. If the temple is bigger, then there is also the pradakshina path inside the temple, like we will see here. So first of all, if someone is moving inside the temple from this path, then he will see a structure. This is known as the mandap. Mandap is the structure, uh, Ardha mandap. And then if someone moving in is a mandap, and then a bigger mandap called as the Maha mandap. These are the mandap which was made for various activities like uh, Rang mandap, Nritya mandap, Vivah mandap. So various kind of activities was performed here. And according to these activities, the name of these mandaps are um built like the Nritya mandap, Rang mandap, various kind of mandap. This Mahamandap. This is known as the Antaral. This is the place where we see the Panditji stand and they do their puja, various rituals, and also when someone go inside the temple, then people stand here in front of the Garbhagriha, and do their namaskar mudra. So this is now we will discuss the biggest structure of this temple. This is whole structure known as the Shikhara. It is just above the Garbhagriha, where the central deity for which this whole temple is dedicated on. And this Shikhara has also various parts, like this smaller Shikhar. These are known as the Uru Shikhar. And above all, this is the Amlak. Amlak is the it has various kind of symbolic meanings, and above all, above the Amlak, this is the Kalash. So this is how a temple architecture can be described in the Nagara style. So we will discuss now the various kind of variations that was evolved by the time in the northern India. So we will discuss the Nagara style architecture in various places. This is the Odisha where different kind of shikhar was evolved, and this is the temple which is known as the Lingaraj temple. So it has and this is the terracotta structure temple which was built in around the Bengal region. Terracotta is the base. Basically, it is the clay structure which is burned down so that it can be uh, made stronger. And this is how, by this technique, this whole temple was built upon. Now, this is the Gandhar region where this kind of architecture was evolved because there was a certain influence of the uh, Greek. There was a Greek influence in the Gandhar region, so this kind of architecture evolved in the Kashmir area, and a very famous temple in this region is the Martand Sun Temple. This temple was built during the Lalitaditya Muktapida, and it is mentioned in the historical text. It is known as the Rastarangani. So, also a difference between the Dravid and Nagar style architecture is that most of these temples are built near the a river or a pond so that water can be used for regular daily purpose in the temple. And some temples are not built near the river or the pond, so that there is a big pond inside the temple. Like this temple, this is known as the Modhara Sun Temple. It is in the Gujarat region, and it has its own water tank. And this feature is very common in the Dravidian style of architecture, where we will see that almost every big temple has their own water tank. Now we will come to the Dravida style architecture. It has two parts. First is the Chola uh, evolution of earlier Dravid style architecture, like structure was evolved during the Pallavs, and then it came to the Chola dynasty and various Chola Chair and Pandya dynasty. And in the later times, the Dravidian architecture evolved further, and we can see a very big difference between these two temples. Like this is the Virupaksha temple built during the Vijayanagar Empire, and this is the Brihadeshwara temple built during the Rajaraja rule. So we will discuss how the Dravidian architecture evolved. Gopuram is a unique structure because it does not present in the Nagar style architecture. Gopuram is the area where this is the main entrance of the whole temple sanctum, and this is how the Raj Gopuram was became bigger in size as the time passes, and this is because kings have to show their work, and this is known as the Purt Dharm. So this is why certain key elements changed as the time passed. And also we will discuss, this is the flat roof mandap as compared to the Nagar style architecture. This is somewhat different, and pillars are very important features of this Dravidian architecture. So the main Garbhagriha, and above this Garbhagriha, this area is known as the Vimana, and Viman is the, as compared to the Nagar style architecture, only the topmost part is known as the Shikhar, while in Nagar style, whole structure, this bigger structure is known as the Shikhar. So this is how the Dravidian architecture is evolved by the time. This is the great Brihadeshwara temple dedicated to Lord Shiva, and it was built by the Rajaraja Chol. Now, when the Dravidian architecture and this Nagar style architecture get coincided, the region of the Karnataka, Telangana, area where we can see that these temples have both features of Dravidian architecture and also the Nagar style architecture. And this is known as the Vesar style architecture. Discuss the Vesar style. In this temple, we can see some features of the Nagar style and also the Dravidian style architecture, like the flat roof mandap, and the entrance is very different than the, like, the Dravidian style architecture. So the Vesara style architecture was evolved by first by the Chalukya of Badami, and then Chalukya of the eastern and western Chalukya. These further evolved this architecture. Then in the later period, the Hoysal kingdom, Hoysal dynasty. This is the dynasty which take the West architecture at its highest peak. So this is how we have discussed the Nagar style and the Dravid style architecture, and also the Vesar style architecture. Thank you for watching this video.